All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out tonight. Welcome to the Anna Maria Island Sons Holmes Beach City Commission Candidate Forum. My name is Joe Hendricks. I'm a reporter for the Sun, and my duties include covering the city of Holmes Beach and the Holmes Beach City Commission. Tonight, we're inside the Holmes Beach City Commission chambers, and we thank you audience members for coming out tonight. We're also live streaming on Facebook, so thanks to everybody on Facebook. We'll leave the video up at the Sun Facebook page for 30 days. So if you know someone that wants to see it that didn't get a chance, it'll be up there. I want to thank Mayor Judy Titsworth, Chief Bill Tobinger, and City Clerk Stacy Johnston for allowing us to use the room and for helping us with this event. We're going to spend 90 minutes. We're going to try to get you out the door by 7:30, if not earlier. We're going to spend 90 minutes with our 4 candidates: Steve Oelfke, Jessica Patel, Terry Schaefer, and Carol Soustek. And these 4 are vying for 3 seats. So when you go to vote, you're voting for 3 of the 4. Steve, Terry, and Carol are incumbents, and Jessica is a first-time candidate, right?
That's correct.
So we thank you guys for participating. We couldn't do it without you, obviously. I checked with the Supervisor of Elections office today. This year's election will take place at the Island Branch Library, not at the church, just like it did last year because of the hurricanes. And we're doing this forum early tonight because mail voting starts in early October. And traditionally, a lot of Holmes Beach voters vote by mail. So we want to get this information out. There'll be a recap on in the October 1st Anna Maria Island Sun, and then some follow-ups. So we want the voters to know about the candidates by the time they get their mail ballots. That's why we're doing it early. Most of the questions, at least in the beginning, will be 60 seconds. Some will have an additional 30-second follow-up. There won't be any rebuttals, but at the very end, each candidate will get a minute and they can rebut anything that was said or bring up something we didn't bring up, something they'd like to talk about. I'd like to thank Leslie Lake, Sun reporter here, extraordinaire from Brayton Beach and Cortez. She's our timer tonight. She has the 30-second sign and the stop sign. You don't have to stop mid-sentence. Finish your thought. There's no bell or sound or anything like that. We're amongst friends. So we'll work our way through our questions. We'll get to some 30-second questions. And then around 7:20, 7:25, they'll each give us some closing arguments. And that'll be the end of our evening. And some of the questions tonight came from Sun readers. So we thank you guys for those questions. There won't be any live questions from the audience tonight. All of them will come from me. And with that, you guys ready to go? Ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. We're going to start with opening comments. And we're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I guess for my opening comments, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Steve Oelfke, and I live here in Holmes Beach and moved in around 2011. My wife and I grew up pretty much in the same town in the Maitland, Altamont Springs area in Florida, so we're pretty much Floridians. Small town kind of growing up, suburb living, and we met through the same church that we attended and found this as our home. You know, it was a journey, but we landed here in 2011 and raising our kids at Anna Maria Elementary and just graduated, and now one's about to graduate from Manatee High School. And I'm a nursing home administrator and felt that my gifts would be best served serving the community. And that led me to the Planning Commission and then to Commission. I'm glad to be here.
Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Patel. I have been here as a permanent resident since 2020. I moved here with my husband and our 2 children, one of whom is a graduate of Anna Maria and one who is currently there in 3rd grade. I serve on the vice president of the PTO board there, which I've done for 2 years. I am vice chair of the SAC committee there. I'm also a volunteer at the community center, so after the storms this year, you may have seen me doling out clothing or organizing things or answering phones, and you'll often see me back there doing those kinds of things. I'm a graduate of the University of Florida. And I met my husband here on this island over 25 years ago. We both lived here out of college in Bradenton Beach. Our careers took us to the east coast of Florida, to New York City, to California, and when the pandemic happened, we decided to come back here because we thought there was no better place to raise our children and start a family. And I'm running to continue to keep that idea of that dream and that community here and alive.
Thank you, Jessica. Terry?
Okay, thank you. Number one, thank you. Come out tonight. I wish we had this kind of attendance at our normal commission meeting.
That's a question for later.
Well, then forget what I just said. I know this will be a little redundant for some of you who have known me over the past 6 years. I have served on our commission for 6 years now, and prior to that served on a form of government committee, and I see some of our former members here tonight. Good to see some of you folks again. I was raised in St. Louis, met my wife, Vicki, who is here tonight at the University of Missouri. We have 2 children and 5 granddaughters, all in St. Louis. And I'm proud to say we are graduates of the University of Missouri. However, we have a granddaughter, as I mentioned earlier, at UF. We found Anna Maria in 1996 and just fell in love with it. I was working at the time, of course. We could get down 4 or 5 times a year, and we knew that, stop? Oh, all right, well, been here full-time for 19 years and enjoy my service. I think most of our other commissioners probably feel the same way. We don't feel like politicians. I feel more like we are hopefully recognized as public servants. It's a pleasure working in a political position, being in a nonpartisan position. So with that, I know I've probably lost future time on my closing remarks.
No.
It's deducted. So thank you for the courtesy.
Thank you, Terry. Carol?
Good afternoon. My name is Carol, and I've been your commissioner for several years. I came to this island as a child, vacationing from Tampa, and then I returned as an adult to make it my home. While working, I worked with some organizations that were doing work out here. SAM, which was Save Anna Maria Island. I did the Florida Amendment, that was about abortion. Hands Across the Sand, that was about drilling. Mosaic Expansions. And I was with the Turtle Watch for 30 plus years. I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. In 2012, I was assigned to the Traffic and Congestion Committee. We were to study the patterns of traffic and where we could find more parking. Although we didn't get very far with that, we did do enough research that when the on-street parking plan was put in place, that work helped. In 2014, I was appointed to the City Commission. We started writing ordinance, bedrooms, lot sizes, setbacks, pervious, non-pervious. We defended against a ton of lawsuits, and we won. Parking garage, we sort of poo-pooed that. And all the smear tactics we handle with grace. When you are a commissioner, you have to make decisions up here that affect a lot of lives. So we take that job very seriously. My focus right now is bringing my community back. It's in different stages. We're just unsure of where we are right now. So everybody needs a little hand, somebody to talk to, somebody to solve a problem. So I'm asking you, if you have a need for any help at all, come to us. Our phone numbers are out there. Or come to us, maybe we'll have a town hall where you can come in and speak your problems. Because if we can't solve a problem unless we know about it, I think we'll rebound, and I think we'll be better after that.
Thank you, Carol. All right, first question, 60 seconds. Ties into the opening remarks. We'll start with Jessica and we'll go that way. Jessica, why do you want to be a Holmes Beach Commissioner? And why do you feel you're one of the 3 that should be elected out of the 4 candidates?
Sure. So my job is I work in a nonprofit. And part of my job is working with budgets and working with people and making a difference. And those are three things that I've been very successful at in my career. And upon seeing what's been going on in the island and the changes that are being made, I feel like I could truly make that kind of a difference here. My lifestyle has been to help others, and this is part of that give back. I've given back in my career, I've given back to my community, and this is just another way that I can do that. And I think that I can bring some fresh eyes and some different opinions and some more talking points that maybe haven't been brought up or haven't been looked at before, with my business acumen and the ability to look at things with new, fresh eyes in a new space.
Terry, why do you want to serve another 2-year term, and why should folks elect you?
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed the challenge, and as we all know, we've all lived through some difficult times, both from Mother Nature and from our state government. We've faced those challenges, I think, with truth, honesty, and facts, and that's why today we can say we're not building a parking garage, we're not consolidating our 3 cities, and I can tell you that the experience counts. We're not finished with the onslaught of difficulties from state government. You're all aware of DOGE now. We just completed successfully getting through the OPAGA report. And again, it was facts. I took a very active role in writing the truth to defend our city and cities against the comments by a former county commissioner and the commission and the state delegation to get the facts out to the community so that they knew and they were aware. Why do I want to continue? I was in the banking business, very involved in the communities. I've served on school boards. I've served on gubernatorial appointee of 3 Illinois governors. I'm the largest development authority in Southern Illinois. I was active constantly in our prior community. So moving down here, it was a natural. I have always felt that I had the time, the effort, and the energy to give back, and I still feel that today. I'm proud of our city. I can tell you folks, those of you who maybe aren't as close to your city, I want you to realize the expertise we have in this city. Every department head. We far exceed, and I know my friends in Anna Maria and Braden Beach may not appreciate this statement, but we have a top staff of giving, caring, dedicated, educated people. It's a joy to serve. Some may shake their heads, but once you get involved and learn the city and learn the individuals who we rely on for advice when the decisions that our commission needs to make, we do so with a knowledge of their honesty and their sincerity. And I really have enjoyed working with quality people in our city and look forward to returning to do so again for another 2 years.
Thanks, Terry. Carol, why do you want to serve another term, and why should folks vote for you?
Well, you have to care about the city an awful lot because you put yourself out there, and it's not easy making decisions because, as I said before, your decisions affect lives. So you've got to know what you're doing. I put a lot of work into this, and I get a lot of reward back. I love this island. I love where I live. And if you want to keep things the way you like them, you have to step forward and work for them. They just don't come to your lap. And so that's why I've been up here and doing what I've been doing, because we have made some wonderful strides, and I'm very proud of them. When I first started, we were reactive. We were reactive to everything because we were so far behind. Now we're ahead. Now we anticipate. Now we plan. So I do a good job. I like working with the people I'm working with, and I want to come back because there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Steve, you were appointed not that long ago when Pat stepped down, Pat Morton, longtime commissioner. Why do you want to serve a full 2-year term? And why should people choose you?
I want to serve because I kind of got to a place in my life where it was a calling. Growing up with Jenny, my wife, and in Maitland, Florida, and going to the same church, and as younger adults, we had a calling to be involved in a youth group as youth ministers, and then myself on the finance committee, and then we found our paradise here, the area where we would have knew we wanted to stay and live. So then that turns towards stabilizing my work, and as a skilled nursing home administrator, I've been responsible for maintaining 120 skilled nursing beds that run 24/7. Doctors, nurses, dietary department, clothing department, CNAs, wonderful caregivers. I've been in the industry of providing care for people, and if things go wrong, then people can lose their lives. And I found that was my calling, and I've done very well, and it's given me the time to have a good team that allows me the freedom to leave work and be here at 2 o'clock meetings, once a week, sometimes more, and still maintain that. And I feel like I can transition the tools that I have and towards serving the city and helping it run well.
Thank you. I think 60 seconds might be a little too short for these folks, so we're going to bump it up to 90 seconds. But at 90 seconds, when Leslie holds the stop sign, try to finish your thought and wrap it up. But we'll give you a little more time. We don't want you to be rushed. We want the people to know what you think about everything. So with 90 seconds, starting with Terry, we'll just keep going this way and change who goes first. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversaries of Hurricane Helene and Milton. What did the city do right in preparation and response to the 2024 hurricanes? And what could be done better before and after the next hurricane, if we have one, which we hope we don't?
Time
Terry, 90 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Timely question. We're in the peak of season, and so far so good. So one of the irony of the storms last year is about a month or two before, the city had just completed a 600-page emergency preparation document. It was an exhaustive document that staff spent over a year in preparation. So we had a plan, untested, but nonetheless a plan that came to fruition. So what I think, in trying to answer your questions, Joe, what did we do right, starting with having a legitimate county-approved and coordinated plan of what to do when it happens. What did we learn? The onslaught of having 2 storms within a 10-day period was enormous. And I don't need to remind anyone in the audience tonight of the arduous task it was for everyone. But we relied on everyone in our staff. Very first day I was here, the first day staff showed up and spent many a morning here as part of trying to help in every way, shape, and form. And I can tell you, from a staff, from a planning, from a staff, from a volunteer standpoint, the coordinated effort that our city and our island, to a large degree, was able to produce has resulted in our city being back in, certainly, yes, a few remaining scars, but in a remarkable condition when we look back and remember 35 feet of debris in the middle of City Field and all of the extraneous efforts that occurred. What can we do better? That is being studied right now. It's a good question. I don't have those answers, but those who were in the middle of that, from a staffing standpoint, are doing just that. And when that is determined and our commission is aware of it, that will become public information of what we learned and what we could conceivably do better. But coming from and looking around our community, I hope our community is very proud of the diligence that our city, our staff, conducted itself in returning our city to a livable and, again, a beautiful condition today.
Carol, what did you do right? What did the city do right? What can the city do better when it comes to hurricanes?
Not have them.
There you go.
Yeah. It was either 4 or 5 years ago, our mayor said, I want to start working on hurricane preparedness. Now, I don't know why that all of a sudden came up, but it did. So we started working on that, and we got recovery crews, and we put them under contract to show up here. Because it's a long waiting list, especially when a big disaster starts. You could wait months to get somebody to come pick up something. We had them online. We had them already. Then you had FEMA. FEMA's a book about this thick. If you do everything FEMA says for you to do, dot your I's and cross your T's, you'll get your money back. If you don't do that, russ-a-ruck. So we hired some firms that know how to do that, because we did it the first time and it was a big job. Thankfully, this firm will guide you through all the steps and help you make the right decisions and know what you're doing. So we were prepared better than anyone else as far as prepared. Nobody was prepared for 5 foot of water in their houses. Nobody. Doing better, we've been talking with the county, and they volunteered that next time they'll have more comfort stations out here. It's, to me, what I would want, I want a manual that tells me how I can do the next steps, because I didn't know where to go to do the next step. So I think it's better just to try hard to not have it happen again.
Steve, your thoughts on hurricane response, recovery, and what can be learned for the next one?
Well, I was on the planning commission. Actually, I was trying to run a campaign actually during the hurricane, and then trying to think of how do you do that during a hurricane, and you put out a sign by a pile of trash. If you find a spot, it was kind of the answer. Yeah, put it in my yard, find a spot, and that kind of hits on what we saw that could have been better, right? But I think, and I think the city's already made corrections, and as a listing of multiple vendors, the vendor that we relied on, I think, struggled. They gave us a good rate compared to what the county and the other cities would have had to pay to try to get cleaned up. So it put us in a position to have less risk, but they struggled to deliver as well as I think we would have liked. So I think that's an area of improvement. They even hadn't finished up the way they should have, and that caused the recovery of the field to be delayed. So that's kind of the biggest thing that, to me, that sticks out. The things that we did great, I think the police did a great job. They were working around the clock. I think the city pulling in a group from Texas to help give guidance and give support was great. So I think our policing, I think that really stood out as, I felt secure, so I want to commend them for that, Chief.
Thanks, Steve. All right, tomorrow night, final budget hearing. Commission will be asked to approve the final reading.
Miss Jess.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jess. We don't want to miss Jess. Go ahead. You weren't on the commission, so what's your observation on what the city did well and what they can do better?
So I agree with Steve that, the first responders did a really great job right afterward. I had friends who were doing their best while they were here when the water kept coming in and trying to work with the first responders and get them out here, having other communities come up from Miami and other areas. There was one particular time that the kids just needed an outlet, and the skate park was the only thing that was available, and those police literally pulled out and turned their lights on just so the kids could have a moment of normalcy in their lives. Outside of that, it was a disaster. And obviously, yes, 2 hurricanes in once is a disaster, but for me, honestly, the contractors were a total mess. And sometimes when there's an emergency, you need to do what's right and not follow the rules. You need to do what's great, because the last thing I wanted to do when I was cleaning out $30,000 worth of garbage out of the down of my house is, does this picture of my family go here or does it go with recyclables? Because I don't really care. I just wanted it picked up and I wanted it gone. And I know so many families felt the same way. Having to pick up after a natural disaster like that is a tragedy, and we needed to work faster, we needed to work quicker. I know that we had opportunities to do that, and we chose not to. I think that there were a lot of problems, and again, the community was not proud of us. We saw the articles in the paper. It was a mess. People were really disappointed and really, really upset, myself included. And that was part of the reason that brought me here onto this, is because there have to be better ways to solve problems when there are big emergencies other than just hope that they don't happen again, because we know that that's not true and it's not our reality that we're living in.
Thank you, Jess. All right, now to the budget question. We'll start with Carol. $22 million 2025-26 fiscal year budget gets approved tomorrow by the City Commission at 5 p.m. Carol, what are your thoughts on the city budget, the city's use of taxpayer funds, and the 1.99 mil property tax millage rate that will be retained for another year?
First off, nobody wants to raise taxes for any reason. And this year, the City Hall understood the fragileness of our community. And they cut back on projects that they had planned to do, were in the works. Our 5-year projects, capital improvements were cut back. A lot of things were cut back so we could keep our millage the same. It's hard for people to understand sometimes why a city has to raise taxes, but think of your own budget. Myself, 2 years ago, I could buy groceries for $100 a week. Now I'm paying $140, $150 for the same amount of groceries. Well, a city hall is a living thing too. They have bills, their water, their electric, their insurance. Insurance is extremely high. So you have to have an income to run a city. That's the bottom line. It's not going to run on air. And when I first came to the City Hall, the very first thing I had to do was raise taxes because the City Hall was going bankrupt. Because the system that was set up, the departments were not carrying the load themselves based on fees. They were working off the general fund. And that just doesn't work. So I think we do a very good job trying to make sure we keep reasonable, but we provide the best service that we can for our community.
Thank you. Steve, your thoughts on the budget, the millage rate, and the expenditure of taxpayer dollars?
Yeah, a year ago when I sat here and spoke about this topic, I did express my feeling that the city has to be very smart with the funds that they're provided, and that's a challenge. It's easy to not. So it's very easy to not worry about it, but we need to. And even though it may not, part of me wants to say, look, I don't mind, what my taxes that go to the city is a small portion of my taxes. Most of it goes to the county. But as a commissioner, I feel that there's a huge responsibility on me. Even no matter how much people are paying, it's making sure that dollars are spent the best way, the smartest way, the most efficient way. And last year when I was here, the question was, do you think we can lower taxes? And I said, I think we can. And I spent a lot of time with city staff, with chief, really hunkering down on areas that I thought were opportunities. And I just kept drumming on it, and I did it in a way that I felt was best, that I would be heard, and that I wouldn't turn staff off to that, and let them know that how much I appreciated the work that they did towards that. And we did it. The city did it. They cut taxes, and I feel good about that. And I'd like to see that maybe again next year too.
Thank you, Steve. Jessica, how do you feel about the city budget, the millage rate, and the expenditure of tax dollars?
So I'll start by saying I don't know why we didn't look to the budget first and to navigate negotiating and cutting it back from there, because there's always places. As somebody, Steve and I have even talked about it, that idea of there's always places in a budget that can be trimmed. And instead of going for the logical route of saying, hey, let's look here first, we immediately were like, hey guys, we know you just went through 2 natural disasters and all of your insurance rates just went up and a lot of you lost your homes. We're gonna also hit you with a tax increase. And that was just mind-boggling to me. Why would you do that to people who are already suffering, who are already still going through so much and trying to navigate that? And then only after the fact that everyone was up in arms, only after the community was furious at this and saying, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to us? Did everyone around me, no offense to everyone, but did they decide to walk back and say, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Hey, maybe we should take a look at the budget. And that for me is something that shows that we're not talking to the community before making big decisions. And I think that's super important. And I also think that it's something that we need to be mindful of going forward. And also, again, be more logical and let's look at other solutions before we just start making those kinds of changes.
Thank you. Terry, your thoughts on the budget,
Yeah,
village, and
I'd like
spending
to
taxpayer
make some of
dollars?
those statements to begin with. Number one, budgeting comes natural to me with my banking background. I've had a lot of experience in it. I'm fully aware, 6 years of going through this process of how thorough it is. And for those of you who just occasionally come to a meeting, it would be impossible to understand the thoroughness and the comprehensive approach this city takes, starting 3 months before we approve the budget. Every department head is challenged by the mayor to determine what they believe their needs are, projections. And then the mayor refines that until it gets to us. So the process is very thorough. The process is very comprehensive. The process is very fair. And I think a lot of people misunderstood when we set the maximum millage. We weren't saying, there's a general misconception by some folks that by setting the maximum, that's what we're telling the community that your taxes are going to be based on. I'm going to go a little over this time because I think this subject is extremely important and I don't want anyone leaving the meeting with any misconceptions. So if I may be afforded that, cut me off on a future.
Try to wrap it
I
up.
will try to wrap it up.
If you guys feel you need a little more time, you can have a little more
It
time.
needs to be explained.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me continue if I might. The maximum was set, and that's really a result of the county assessor's office requiring each and every taxing authority to determine what their maximum, so they could send the trim notice out to advise well in advance those property owners of what their taxes conceivably could be based on rollback, based on maximum, and based on something in between. So that may have sent some shockwaves out to the community, but the intent of this current commission was to make every effort. We knew, number one, we were going to have a devaluation. And we have had a devaluation, as many of you have read. The assessed valuation of our city has decreased considerably. And the ad valorem revenue to our city has decreased about $600,000. So you can't make that up with smoke and mirrors. So I can assure you, the city staff, the mayor, the commission worked very, very hard in reducing the budget. The objective was, at very least, to get it back to the current millage rate, which was in the present year 1.99, will be this year. So what we're dealing with is considerably less revenue. And if you find, when you look at the budget in its totality, we've cut $1 million out of expenses. And I think that is a direct result of the diligence of listening to our public. Of course, we listen to the public. One thing I want to say, though.
I gotta cut you off.
I'm sorry, I'd like to say this. There were very few people attending our budget hearings. We had a workshop, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and we also brought the assessor's office in to explain everything that has to do with assessment of the properties after natural disasters.
Okay, we gotta start adhering to the 90 seconds. When you hear Leslie, when you see Leslie put up 30 seconds, start winding it down. Carol, do you want to say anything else about the budget, quickly?
No,
I have a lot of
I'm
questions.
over my
Carol?
already.
Do you want to say anything else about the budget?
We're such a small little line on the total budget of the county and the schools and everything else. It's a little teeny line. And that teeny line makes everything work here. So go home and look at your tax bill. Look at the amount of money the city gets compared to some other things. And I think you'll be a little surprised how nice we try so hard to do that, to keep it that low.
Steve, do you want to say anything else about the budget, quickly? You don't have to. Don't talk just to talk.
I believe, that people in this community need to feel heard, and I feel that there's a feeling that they don't feel heard, and that's been a concern of mine since even before I came on. So I want to acknowledge that, and I'll discuss that later in my closing.
All right, Jess, real quick, final thought on the budget.
Again, I'm just gonna go back to my initial thought, they trimmed, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the budget in the 2 weeks that everyone was up in arms? Why didn't they do that before? Why didn't they do that before they decided to up the military? Those are big questions.
All right, here's another tough one, and we're gonna give you 2 minutes, but we're gonna stop you at 2 minutes on this one. This is a hard 2 minutes, but it's important. It's maybe the most important topic city commissioners deal with these days on this island, and that is stormwater and drainage. During last year's hurricanes, we learned even more how important drainage and stormwater systems are. In July, the City Commission voted 3-2 to not increase the annual stormwater assessment fee from $2.95 per 100 square feet of property to $4.95. Commissioner Schaefer supported the increase. Commissioner Oelfke and Soustek opposed it. So my question, starting with you, Steve, is what can the city do? What should the city do to improve drainage and the city's stormwater system? And how can that be done without increasing stormwater fees? 2 minutes. Hard 2 minutes.
Well, and anybody that would have listened to that stormwater meeting, would have heard me say, look, again, similar to the taxes, look, I don't mind trying to spend more of my money towards trying to fix something, but it wasn't, again, I had to look at what the public wants and needs, and my best estimate of that. And I felt that too many of our long-term homeowners, it's make or break. I mean, they're trying to struggle to find a way to not have to sell. And I didn't want to do anything, not just the budget, because the budget that was part of my motivation for that too, but also stormwater. And it was a tough call because everybody wasn't in agreement on that. And as much as I wanted it, I knew that the right thing to do is to not increase at that time. But at some point, we will need to really accomplish what needs to be done, and that's 50 years of infrastructure that hasn't been done much with. It's kind of failing. Poor Saji, I call him every week, or I'm out walking in the last flooding that we had. I'm walking down the street filming it so I can bring it back to Saji and see how bad it is. See where it's. Well, I can't go I can't go through the drains fast enough. I went to the marina. I could see it flowing out into the marina, and there wasn't any blockage into those outfalls, but it just didn't have it couldn't handle that kind of volume. And so I talked with Sajay about that, and he kind of showed me where in their plans it is going to be addressed. Some of that we're voting on tomorrow as a city commission to move forward with a $1.7 million project, most of which is from grants that they finally got. So there's a lot to look forward, and I don't feel like it's hurting us this year to keep moving forward on some of these projects, because there's a lot that they're going to be moving forward on, and it didn't require us to hit everybody up this year, and I'm glad that I voted the way I did.
Thanks, Steve. Jessica, your thoughts on stormwater, drainage, stormwater fees, how you fund everything that needs to be done?
Yeah, so I think it's a twofold system. All of us here have driven through the lakes afterward, I shouldn't have to drive through a no-wake zone in order to take my kid to school. It's a big, big problem that we have, and we're very well aware of it. I think that the current way that we've handled it is just, when I see what's happened, and I'm now in my research, I've looked back and see the money that we've spent on consultants and how we've addressed it. I feel like we're playing this game of throw it at the fridge and see what sticks. And nothing's yet worked. And I think that, that may not be completely correct, but again, the transparency of not letting the community know what's being done and what's working and what's not, and also that idea of then reaching out to other barrier islands. How does St. Pete address this? How does Miami Beach address this? How do these other large cities with huge density problems address this constant flooding and navigate these problems? I've heard, again, from a lot of individuals that are already super upset about the ditches and the swells that are being dug now that now have, are just basically mosquito ponds and smell, and they don't love walking around with them. So again, I think that there needs to be a lot of thought that's put into it and a lot more research of talking to others that have high experience. And funding that is also part of that. So we really need to look at the best way to fund it, to look at grants, to see again what other people have done and talk to them and have those open conversations of navigating that, because it's impacting individuals daily, and it is going to impact our vacationers. No one's going to want to come here if they can't use the sidewalk. No one's going to want to take the boat over here if they can't walk to a local restaurant. So it's something that we definitely need to be focused on, and we need to be smart about it.
Thank you, Jessica. Terry?
Yes, very topical subject, and the reality is our city had begun about a year ago an engineering study to determine the condition of all of our infrastructure. That study was complete after the effect of the storms, but it was a preventative measure of hiring consultants who specialize in this type of engineering of hydraulics to determine the condition, the whereabouts of all of our infrastructure and the condition of that. So it's incumbent upon the city to hire the expertise when needed. We've done that. The results of that study and our own engineers' conclusions resulted in the fact that over the next 5 years, it was his determination and his projection that there was some $21 million worth of work that needed to be done between now and 5 years. And if you get a copy of the budget and are interested in really looking at reality of the line items, you'll find that there are various categories that break down various line items of our budget. So this year, we know at the end of the year, we're going to be $1.6 million behind when looking at what our expenditures and needs are versus what our resources are. So at this point in time, the city generates about $860,000 a year from your stormwater assessment. On average, that assessment is $150 to $200 a year, coming off of the year we had with excessive flooding, 100-year flooding, 500-year flooding. It was obvious we needed to do more, and it takes money, and the more we have in our own contribution, the greater amount of grants that we can qualify for. So the impetus was coming from our engineering department of what we needed to do, the money it would take to fund it, and consequently, that's why I supported it. I really believe that everyone understood that was the greatest threat our island has from a natural disaster standpoint. So somewhere we're going to have to catch up, and I do agree, and those studies are underway now, looking at the method of calculating everyone's, rather than...
I have a question on that. Let's let Carol Carol, your thoughts on stormwater? How you're gonna fund it? Not increasing the fee this year? We do have a follow-up. I know where you're going. We have a
Okay,
follow-up.
that's fine.
We've poured tons of money in the last years into the improvement as much as possible. I mean, tons of money. And we still need to put a lot more. But this was not the time, in my opinion. I felt everyone was more concerned with how they were going to get through the year with the expenses and everything else. They just did not need more money going out. There will be a time when we will raise that stormwater fee again because we need to have matching funds. When you have funds in your budget that you can go out and say, well, if you give me this $500,000, I'll match it, we'll do this. You can get them. So you do have to have some operating cash to get the grants. We have some great people here that write grants all the time, and I mean, they get some money. You've got to remember also, though, that this is stormwater. This is rain, immense rain that we're trying to control and get off our streets and not go into the houses that are on our island. It's not a storm surge. Nothing's going to stop that. So we have to look at the time along with the need. The stormwater is expensive every time they come to us with a bill to put in a pipe, or you know what, those little valves that stop the money from coming, the water from coming back in, $4,000 a piece. Put a little valve in. So we're talking massive money, and this is just not the time right now. We have done a lot. We will do more. But we'll work on it.
All right, and I think this is where Terry was headed, and we're going to start with Jess. This is a question from a Sun reader, so we thank this Sun reader who's in attendance today. Should the city change the current method of calculating stormwater fees that's based on a property's total square footage and switch instead to a method based on the amount of property covered with impervious structures and surfaces that don't allow for drainage? So going by impervious surface instead of square footage. Let's try to keep this one in 30 seconds or so. Jess?
Yes, like that's the obvious answer, right? Because you think about it, if you have a drainage system in place with natural grass, even with astroturf, with xeriscape, any one of those things can handle water and it can go through there. If you have a house on it, or you have a pool, or you have a concrete slab that takes up 80-90% of that area, obviously you're going to increase the part that the flooding or where that water can go when there's a storm, when there's any kind of rain. So again, yes, you definitely need to be looking at that when it comes to stormwater fees, impervious surface.
Terry?
I would agree, and we are doing it. That's concurrent. We're going to have a workshop on that very same subject, but before we do, we had asked and engaged our engineer to evaluate other methods, to inquire with other communities as to how they calculate that. For those who may not be aware, it's $2.95 this year. And by the way, we haven't raised it. This will be the 6th year, folks, that we have not raised that rate. So I can't tell you today whether the pervious, that makes sense to me, the amount of pervious soil. A number of years ago, the city undertook the issue, though, with all of the new construction to make certain that all new homes have their downspouts buried. So what that did is result in each new development that occurred, it required at the owner's expense to convey that water into underground vats or connect it to our storm sewers to minimize that was running off into our curbs and gutters.
Carol, should we switch the way we calculate the stormwater fee?
Yes, we should. But this is going to take some study. This is not like, oh, I can change this overnight. It's like I said, every time you make an ordinance and you make it law, it affects people and their lives. So we're going to do a study of it. We're going to study some other cities. We'll have a workshop. Come in with your ideas and let us know. But we are looking at changing it because we feel that it's not an adequate system at this time.
Steve?
I referenced that exact idea as the reason why I wasn't going to vote for increasing stormwater. So that's, I mentioned that, and I looked at Chad, who I knew was going to be a tough job for Chad Minor in the building department to figure that out. And I looked at him and said, I know it's going to be tough, but it's right. That's the way to do it. It's not okay that some of our water issues are related to new development or new homes that decided to maximize every square inch that they're allowed on a lot, you know, and not allow water to flow. You know, that's what's flowing in the streets. Those are the, you know, ones that should really carry more of the burden rather than the homeowners that have, you know, not done that, or not the properties that haven't changed that lead towards the problems as well.
Thank you, Steve. Another question from a Sun reader. Kind of moving along slowly as far as the topics. We'll start with Terry. Trying to keep this one at 60 seconds. Well, let's go 90 seconds. We won't make 60. 90 seconds. What can the city, this is from a Sun reader, what can the city commission and the city do to control overdevelopment? And should the city continue approving rezoning requests that allow for increased density and intensity regarding the use of a property, and or adjusting the parking requirements, including allowing parking to be spread over multiple properties or locations to meet the requirements? I know that's kind of a long question, but Terry,
Repeat that.
should the commission keep approving these rezoning requests that basically increase density and increase parking?
Well,
Your thoughts on rezoning up?
rezoning up is pretty well fixed, and Senate Bill 180, which the governor signed, precludes us from making any further changes that affect development. So should we, if the question, my gosh, Joe, the question was more than 90 seconds, so.
But I'm trying to
respond in order of the question, so.
Should the city keep approving rezoning requests? If so, why?
I'm not aware, other than in commercial, which isn't a density issue, that we've had any rezoning. The last rezoning question that came to us was 2 years ago, and we rejected it when the Lutheran Church asked for rezoning to redevelop 2 of their 3 parcels into residential. So from that experience, I can say most recently our commission has taken a stand not to allow rezoning to increase density. Do I believe we should in any way relax our zoning to increase density? Absolutely not. The city was the only one on the island to do so. Carol helped me 7 or 8 years ago when it took the position that no more in the R2 zones, no more than 4 bedrooms and 2 occupants per bedroom. The other 2 cities didn't. They lost that window, it closed, and they can no longer adopt that. So I think our city's been very proactive in trying to address density and control it.
Thanks. Carol, your thoughts on rezoning? I'll simplify the question. Your thoughts on rezoning that increases density, increases parking?
There's an answer for it. It's called a comprehensive plan. If you become for me, and the comprehensive plan is like a Bible we use where all the laws are put in there as far as land use and so forth. And you use that as your guide, and we've done that very well. Density is in there, it's set, it won't change. Just like the height restriction won't change because we made sure we put it in the charter. So you can't change the height of a building by the commission. You have to go to the voters to change that. We put in things to protect the island. We don't put it in there just to put it in there. We've done change of use, and that again is dictated by the comprehensive plan. If everybody does what the comprehensive plan says they need to do to get a site plan approval, they will get it. By law, they have to get it. We can't say, I don't like you, because we'll get sued and they'll win. So there are rules that we go under up here also. We don't have the luxury of doing what we want to do. We do what we have to do. This island is maxed. So I can't see any density changes ever happening.
Steve, your thoughts on rezoning?
Yeah, I have a passion towards helping the quality of life for the people who live here, the residents. That's kind of number one, and talking with Jessica, I know she feels that way too. We share that in common. Thankfully, the comprehensive plan was written with that in mind. So if you really look at the comprehensive plan, it can help commissioners reference that and make decisions that are going to be in the best interest of the residents, I feel, if they do their job right. So I see that as a positive thing towards not allowing density increases. I could see land, property usage, but not density per se. And as Carol mentioned, it's comprehensive plan supports it, and that's what we look to as our director.
Jess, it's probably the first rezoning question you've had in your life. What are your thoughts on rezoning to allow for more density, more parking? And I do have a specific follow-up coming.
Okay, so one of the first things I did when deciding to run was read that comprehensive plan. So let me first just answer your piece about rezoning in general. I think that rezoning with regards to all of the new construction that's going up for a lot of vacation rentals and things like that, I'm in agreement with everybody that it's not the solution. But another big piece that's in that comp plan is affordable housing. And when you don't have any place, and obviously affordable is a relative term on this island, as we all know, but you have to be able to support small businesses which are suffering. You have to be able to support families who want to live here. And honestly, I know multiple people, and when you have $4,000 a month to spend on a place and you can't afford to live on this island for your family, it's a problem. And so if maybe changing some ordinances to allow for density where families can live in those areas, that's a question that I think should be open for discussion.
And here's a question along those lines. And we'll start with Carol. City was unsuccessful in its efforts to buy the Gloria Day Church property for $3 million under the idea that the current public, semi-public zoning and land use designations would remain in place. Property is now listed for $9.9 million, and if sold, the new owner might come to the City Commission and ask to rezone that property for residential or commercial development. Carol, as quickly as you can, 30, 60 seconds, what are your thoughts on rezoning that, and how do you balance that with the possibility that the property owner might challenge the city's decision in court?
Again, you use the comprehensive plan. The site plan that would come before us would have to meet those rules. And if he met the rules, then we'd have to give it to him. But they are very stringent rules. If you look in there, they cover parking, they cover usage, they cover the building, the size, what are you going to do with it, where's your landscaping, where's your buffering, lots of things, lots of things. And don't give up on this city not getting the Gloria Dye. I'm after that property.
We don't have the money.
All right, Steve, your thoughts on Gloria Dye
Oh, okay.
and rezoning it, if asked.
What do you want, parking for the county?
I think there's a significant opportunity for the city to have that and keep it as it is, the structure as it is, the density as it is. My kids went to school for constructive play, I would pick him up from that church. I want to see it back there. I want to see that property and that structure used for areas that would benefit the residents. And I think it's worth some money to do that. But we're not in agreement at that point that I could see it happening right away. And redeveloping, I look back at the comprehensive plan. It's pretty well written, really spelled out well there.
Just your thoughts on rezoning the church property if asked.
Yeah, I think that we definitely should not be rezoning it. I think we should keep it as is. And the second piece of that is, obviously we had come in very, very low for the price of what they're looking for. But again, that's to put homes there, that's to put residential properties there. And for us, I think as a city, we should be looking at different ways that we could use that property to potentially bring in revenue for the city. So, turning it into a WeWork, turning it into a place, because there's plenty of remote workers on the island and people who would come here to make it a place to work. Turning it into a splash pad in certain areas. So there are ways that we could potentially think about it in a bigger and broader way to make it a place for a revenue generating opportunity for the city and not just a building that sits there and will sit there forever because they're going to not negotiate on their price.
Real quick, Terry, your thoughts on Gloria Day. We got about 28 minutes left and we have questions to go, so I'm going to start cutting you all off.
It certainly is a continuing opportunity, but I want everyone to understand that the position that the city took was much more realistic than the position that the church took. The church took the position and chartered its appraiser to determine the value of that property if, in fact, it would be redeveloped residential or commercial. A vast different, folks, than the zoning that exists. We took the position, you have to have it appraised for the condition that it's in today, and we had 2 certified appraisers come back. One appraised it at $2 million, the other appraised it at $2.7 million. I was asked by our commission to take the lead in the discussions along.
Need a short answer. Sorry, but we need a short answer.
Well, do you want an answer?
I want a short answer. I'm sorry.
The short answer is we made a legitimate offer of $3 million for the property. We had 4 agencies in the city that wanted to rent space from us. I had done the projections of what it would do to our budget if in fact we had to borrow $3 million at the time, and the impact to our budget, folks, was only going to be about $250,000 to the budget.
I hate to cut you off.
That didn't even consider the revenue that the property was going to generate.
We've got to move along. All right. Love your answers, not trying to give anybody a hard time. We just got to keep moving so we can get these folks out of here. They don't want to sit here all night. It's not like a city commission meeting. And we do have a question about coming up. So 60 seconds, really. Please keep to 60 seconds. This used to be the topic on the island. It seems to have calmed down a lot in recent years. In 60 seconds, starting with Carol. How's the city doing with its short-term vacation rental and noise ordinance regulation right now in the year 2025? How do you think we're doing?
Oh, we're doing very well. I was one of the ground founders to bring the code enforcement into play. And the reason it's doing so good is we also said bring the stakeholders in. The people who run the rental companies, the people who rent houses, bring them in and we'll work on these ordinances together. We're not just going to tell you something, we want to know what you want. And because of that, we've had great compliance. We don't have noise complaints coming in by the ton. You will have some rowdy person once in a while, but not in a ton. The chief puts out a report. And I'm sure that if you ask him, he would give you how many people have called in with noise complaints or parking complaints or anything else. We have controlled that and will continue. We just had a town hall meeting with the stakeholders, going over everything that might change. It's a different time. I don't know how these renters are coming in this year. I think it's all changed, but I'm waiting to see.
Steve, your thoughts on vacation rental and noise ordinance?
I think our opportunities are in policing the noise to the ordinance. I think it's gotten better, but in my mind, it's never going to be good enough. That's one of the critical areas to where our residents who live in the areas that are higher rentals can live a better quality of life. So it's very important to me. So I make sure I applaud Chief, but I do plan to kind of take that angle that it's never good enough. We had 1,662 vacation rental certificates as of the stakeholders meeting the other week. We have a lot of vacation rentals, but the key is to have that engagement, and that's what I was encouraging, is there's so much engagement between the city and the stakeholders, so we need more of that. That's why I did the cabanas. I wanted to talk with all of them and kind of encourage them to talk.
Jess, your thoughts on vacation rental and noise regulation?
Yeah, I have not had a chance to talk with you about this, so, but I feel like from my knowledge and talking to Steve as well, I think that we've done a decent job at navigating this and keeping that down, but there's always more work that can be done.
Thank you. Terry?
Yes, I think the city's done a good job and has a good spirit of cooperation with the owners of our rental properties. They too, many of them are neighbors and friends of ours. And I think the cooperative spirit between the city, the enforcement, and the owners' objectives has come much more attuned in the last 5 to 6 years. On noise, it's sporadic. Some neighborhoods have exceedingly more. Those are where the calls often come. It's somewhat predictable. And the city has done, I think, its level best to respond immediately, to not only counsel the owners and the property managers, to make them aware that when they're in and out of compliance, there are penalties to pay. So it's all in the spirit of asking for cooperation. And unfortunately, some people come here and they don't read the rules, they don't read all the material that our property owners provide them with regard to what the city's ordinances are, and consequently, the good times get ahead of their judgment, and that's when we get the calls. The police and ultimately our code enforcement folks have to follow up. Can we do a better job? We will continue, I know, to try to improve on that balance, and it's not an easy balance to maintain.
Thanks. All right, you ready for the lightning round? These are 30-second answers. Do not go into great detail. Yes or no will suffice if you want to keep it short. 30 seconds. All right, there's been some recent talk here in Holmes Beach about implementing paid parking along the city street ends by the beach access points within a quarter mile of those beach access points. Steve, your 30-second thoughts on paid parking.
If you look at the development in Manatee County, and you've seen what's been going on in this island for the last 10 years, you know that the trend is going to continue to be trying to pack more people onto the island, going to the beach. It seems inevitable that we would be finding ourselves in a position where the city would have to resort to that. I hope that can be held off much, much, much longer. And when we talked with the county the other week, it was trying to find out from them if they were going to start charging at the county beach, because then that would really tie their hands. So, but we need to study it. We need to be ready. If it needs to be done, it's going to have to be done as a result of the county starting to charge, and then we need to do it quick.
Jess, paid parking near the beach ends.
So part of being on this island is the fact that we have this availability for beaches. So it's kind of a plus or minus, right? You get to live in paradise, but all of those other people who live inland don't get what we get. And so this is something that they moved to Bradenton for. No one's moving to Bradenton to live in Bradenton. They moved to Bradenton to come to the beach. And so by punishing them and making them pay for these things, I think is kind of restrictive. However, there are studies that we can do and kind of look at that and see if it would be feasible. But again, I also don't want to become like Longbow Key, where we just don't let anybody come to the beach.
Terry, paid parking.
Right. Ultimately, it may be the case, and I've never been in favor of paid parking in our city up to now. And if in fact we do, my protection will be for our residents, so that residents are accepted from any cost of paid parking, and I think that can be accomplished. We're going to have a work session. I think that'll be published, so if that's an interest of yours and other citizens, I hope you'll be a part of that conversation to help us understand what the public's feelings on paid parking is.
Thanks. Another hot topic. It's kind of resolved here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Getting ahead of myself. Keep me in line. Go ahead, Carol.
This is getting ahead of a problem. You know, for years we were behind. We have learned how to get ahead. This is not ever going to go away, this conversation about parking out here. It's always going to be hovering over your head. Well, what you need to do is go ahead and study it and get the best advice, plan, see which would work best for you. Be ready for it if it all of a sudden, say the county decides they're going to put in paid parking. You are prepared. Just don't think it's going to go away. So this is what this is about. This is a discussion to get the plan beforehand.
All right. Now, to my question that I was too early on. And we'll start with, let's see who we're starting with. We'll start with Jess. Jess, you haven't been here for this discussion, but there's been talk lately, and again, 30 seconds. Beach cabana rentals, other commercial beach activities. Real quick, what are your thoughts on what the city should allow, not allow, regulate beach activities?
Yeah, so I think beach cabanas in general, I don't think any of us want 1,000 beach cabanas, like hoping they'll be rented. I think the rule should be as it is now, where once you have a rental, then it's set up on the beach. It shouldn't be where you just hope to come up and rent something. It's just not the way it's going to work. We don't have enough beach space to do something like that. I think in general, commercializing it is, we have enough small businesses on this island where if you want to get something to eat, if you want to go grab something to drink, you can go to the places that already exist. You don't need to kind of commercialize what we have already.
Terry?
Yes, I think it's working right now, and we've had a great spirit of cooperation with those vendors. I think the bigger concern that we're studying goes well beyond cabanas. It's working right now, and I have no reason to believe that those operators in any potential future will be in the same cooperative spirit of our existing friends in that business. But our biggest concern is linked to what we see on Palmasola. And that has become a circus. And finally, we're getting some movement on behalf of the county and the city of Bradenton. Three different municipalities govern basically that stretch of land in that beach. So what we're trying to prevent are commercial enterprises. They cannot, and we will not allow them to sell a product on the beach itself. Now we're seeing the boats coming in for pizza and ice cream. So it's a study. It's the first time it's come up, and I think what the city is trying to do is be very proactive to determine through workshops and other community discussions what is the best way to manage this so that you have convenience, but you don't have over-commercialization of our beaches, which I certainly oppose.
Thanks. Carol?
Yes, I appreciate the fact that the tent situation popped up because it brought it to our attention that we have a void in our laws and we had to look at it. And that happens often. It's the commercial activity that could further down the road that's got us concerned. Because we are working with a vendor, so he's great. What can happen like jet skis? The guy sets up a little sign, rents jet skis. Like he's saying, the ice cream boat can come in. We don't know about that. There's so many avenues we have to look at, but it is an area of concern, and the commission is looking at it.
Steve?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I met with some of the cabana rental groups, and they're a great group of people. A lot of them have ties to the island, and they're local. And they've actually encouraged regulations. They've asked about it. They want to participate in creating them. So that's why I did ask in our commission meeting to kind of discuss it further, even though we felt like the situation at hand right now is under control. It should be discussed, and we should be ahead of the problem, like Carol said, and that's why I want to continue to be bringing it up.
And speaking of the business community, we'll start with you, Terry, 30 seconds, real quick.
Skip Jess.
Oh,
Oh, no, I answered first.
yeah, you start, I'm keeping notes, I'm trying. Terry, real quick, is there anything more, the businesses in this city are very important to the city economy, the island economy. What, if anything, can the city and the city commission do to help foster that business community?
Well, I don't think we have very restrictive ordinances right now, which is somewhat of an encouragement to do business here. But this is really a business owner's and individual's discretion on whether they wish to engage in the business here. With regard to their ability and their right and the procedure to do so, it's simply applying within to make certain the business that you are wanting to engage in is permissible within the city, to get a license to do so, and then take the risk as anyone in business has in the past and present. So I think I would be a willing listener if there are restrictions that I'm not aware of that our city has placed to prevent any such incentives, but we're vitally aware of the importance of our businesses for both residents and for tourism and the revenue that it generates for.
Thanks. Carol, anything the city should do to just assist the business community, for lack of a better word? Foster?
Well, I wish they would come in and talk to us and let us know the problems so that we can work with them to get the solution. We can't solve a problem unless we know about it. So you have to come in and tell us. One thing I was kicking around is one last year, I think that we had a coupon book where if you went to the businesses and you got so many little stars or something, you got a special prize. Maybe the city could come up with some kind of participation on something of that and support it. You have to be careful when you get into private enterprise. The city's one thing, private enterprise is another.
Steve, any thoughts? I know you brought this up before.
Yeah, I brought it up at the last meeting, because at the stakeholders meeting, there was somebody that brought up the concern. And especially during the slow season, even though, the struggle that they have. And I think, for us to keep some of our business, in some ways, some of our core businesses, have been here for so long, and I don't want to lose them either, just like some of the residents. So I feel like we want our landmarks. I don't want to see our restaurants turning over ownership. I want to see them kind of engaged in coming to meetings and us finding ways that we can support them and work together. And that's what I brought up in the meeting is, this Holmes Beach has brought $30 million to the Tourist Development Council to spend on tourism. So that's why I brought it up. Dan Diggins is on that council, and I brought it up so that maybe there's some opportunities that we can encourage Tourist Development Council to focus on Manatee County residents to come and see our businesses when they're slower and they really need that little bit extra traffic to kind of keep them going, keep them floating.
Jess?
Yeah, so the idea with small businesses, for me, I know so many small business owners on the island, and their biggest struggle isn't just during slow season, it's finding workers. They have no one to work here, and no one's willing to come out here and work for these people, because having to sit in 2 hours worth of traffic isn't worth their minimum wage they to be making at these jobs. And most of them don't even pay minimum wage. They pay over that just to try to get people and entice them to come out. So I think one of the big things is to work with the city and work together to try to find a solution in the county to try to find a solution for that really, really big issue, because if you don't have workers, then you don't have businesses.
Thank you. All right, another 30-second question. This one's been kind of a hot topic. It's kind of been sidelined. It's been decided, but I still want to ask it. And we'll start with Carol. Carol, should the city carry through with its plans to install 3 speed tables along Key Royal Drive?
Thank you so much. I thought about that. And I went over there, and I rode the street thinking we'd already put them in, because somebody had told me that he was having trouble going over them, but they weren't there. So I don't know what street he was on. I think when we put the 4 tires off the road, especially on Key Royale, that helped quite a bit. We do have some Leadfoot residents. That's been obvious to us. And they do speed. And so if we did anything that we have to do, we might put 1 to make them slow down on that long road. They know 1's there, they're gonna have to slow down, but not more than 1.
Steve?
Yeah, I was concerned about the speed tables, and then they were referenced to the ones on 6th Street. So I went out and drove the speed bumps on 6th Street, and I knew that's not, so I encouraged the city to look when they do that, because it was kind of past the point of any other options, that they make them to where they're less of a lower profile, because you can't go the speed limit on a thoroughfare like Key Royale Drive is. But I'd like to see us do things that will help Key Royale, and one of which is to help that intersection. The speed tables, I don't see another way around. I push for another way around, but what I want to look to do is try to get something to make that intersection so that people from Key Royale can get out onto Holmes Boulevard, and also, Holmes Boulevard and Key Royale can get out on the Gulf or Marina there, because that's dangerous, and that's got to be a priority as well.
Jess?
In talking to residents of Key Royale, everyone that I spoke to was like, why are we putting these speed tables up? There aren't that many people that speed. So for me, based off of talking to that community in particular, it feels like they're unnecessary. I think that we need to probably do more study before deciding, let's just throw up some speed tables because some people are speeding. My bigger issue is the fact that nobody can seem to follow a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit in front of Publix. That to me is a much more dangerous area rather than an area like Key Royale, which every time I'm going through with the curves in there, it's really hard to drive of a significant speed there, whereas people between the areas of Walgreens and Publix, are easily hitting 60.
Carrie? Speed tables.
Yes,
Key Royale.
this all started with a request of those neighbors living on the most narrow part of Key Royale Drive. This was not a city initiative. It was the city listening to its constituents of the concerns that they had. Yes, obviously anyone who has driven it realizes how narrow it is. I think we greatly assisted the problem of congestion by the 4 wheels off. And what that's done though is kind of narrow the vision of those people traversing their driveways and watching for speeders. There is no doubt there are speeders. And I realize, and I have many friends, and I'm up and down Key Royale Drive several times a week, and I don't know anyone who is cheering us on who lives across the bridge to do these. But the fact remains that it is a safety issue. I think the fact remains also they haven't been installed yet. So there's been a pause and a re-listening to this subject. I'm certainly amenable to re-listening, and I think a reduction of the number of speed tables. We've listened to our chief, we've listened to our engineer, they're the experts in this issue. They were the ones who met firsthand, along with the mayor, with these residents, asking for safety and relief in safety on that section. I think if any of us lived on that 100 block, the 500 block of Key Royale Drive, we'd probably feel a little differently, because they're there every day. They see the number of speeders that are traversing that area, and I think the city listened to those concerns and tried to do the right thing to minimize any accidents or incidents.
All right, here's a question from a Sun reader, and it's a good question because I spend a lot of time in these chambers, and it's usually me and a couple other people. So starting with Steve, 30 seconds. What, if anything, can be done to increase resident and business owner attendance and involvement in city commission meetings and work meetings? Would it help to hold the meetings in the evenings as was done in the past? And is there more that could be done to make residents and business owners aware of upcoming topics? I know the clerk does a great job of posting everything at the city website ahead of time, but what can be done to simplify the question? What can be done to get more people engaged in city commission meetings, Steve?
Changing the times, maybe it could be an opportunity, so I think that needs to be looked at. I told the team that I'm available anytime, so even though I work, I can make that time during the day, but I know it might be better for a lot of people in the evenings. The stakeholders meeting was actually pretty fun, so if JT can run it, I think, JT can be there. He gives out prizes. I think if we give out prizes and gifts to do a raffle, whatever we need to do, because honestly, sitting in the commission meetings, when somebody comes up and talks, even if it's negative, it's like, I'm like, thank you, you're giving a voice, you're giving good information, because as a commissioner, I need to work off of what people say, and I need to hear their voices. And so.
Jess? You
Yeah.
work during the day?
Yeah, you and I had this conversation. More people would show up if you worked during working hours. There's a ton of residents. I think there's over 400 residents who are actively working, and they can't come to a meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Or they have kids and they have to pick them up from school. And when you have a 4-hour meeting, you can't always attend that, and that's a real sacrifice. And when you're trying to talk about residents, I think moving it to later in the day, I think a lot of individuals are on local social media, and a lot of them don't follow the city. They should, but they don't. So if you can get it out to more places on social media, if you can make the effort and reach out to the community, say, hey, this is happening. Hey, this is about you. This is important. Send those emails. Get kind of with that area of reaching out to those independent places.
Terry?
Yes.
Way to get folks more engaged?
My original comment was, thank you for being here tonight. I wish we had this type of attendance at our meetings. What can we do? We do place it on the marquee in advance of meetings, so those driving by at least see it. It is on our website for those who choose to access our website. But most importantly, if you have an interest in knowing what's coming up on our agendas, all you have to do is contact our city clerk. She will add you to the list. It goes to hundreds of people now, and it goes out well in advance of the meetings so that you, in advance of those meeting times and places, know what the topics are, and it's a topic of interest to you. Please show up, because that is the only way. It's not the only way, but it's the best way for us to hear directly from the public when we're talking and are teeing up a particular subject.
Thank you. Carol?
Maybe if the paper gave us a free ad area, we could put the agenda in the paper.
Well, you know what? We do that for the other cities, but they have their meetings on Thursdays. And our paper comes out on Tuesday, so by the time it comes out, you're already in the meeting. So that's why I put them on Facebook a lot.
Well, we'll think about a way to get it to you. We just changed the time, a year ago? 2 years ago?
Explain that real quick.
2 years ago? To 2 o'clock. Prior to that, it's always kind of been either 5 or 6 o'clock, and it showed no change in attendance whatsoever. We have some loyal people that come because they have an interest and they want to know what's going on. But those people we see time in and time out. We don't see new people unless something on the agenda is in their backyard. If it affects them, they will show up. But in a generality, no, it's not. Time doesn't change. Interest. You have to get their interest to get them to come.
All right, last question. 30 seconds. Also from a reader. Would you support the city asking the Florida Institute of Government to conduct a resident survey similar to what was recently done in Longboat Key? The survey, among other things, asked residents what issues and concerns are most important to them. And we'll start with Steve.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. And then back to the other part, it doesn't matter what time we make the meeting. If people don't feel like we're listening or that we care, then it doesn't matter what time. So I think that needs to be the focus first, and how do we do that? And I talked with the city attorney, because when people go and talk and then she has to stop them, and when we want to ask questions, say, no, you're not allowed to do that in bylaws. You know, kind of like, well, how do they feel like we care if we can't ask questions or we can't? So she gave me some good advice about bringing it up at the end of the meeting, and that's what I plan to do. So yes, let's study, let's hear, and let's care.
Jess?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes, it'd be very interesting to get that opinion, yes.
Yes. All right. As I promised you guys, before we get to closing remarks, you each get 1 minute to either rebut something that was said, elaborate on something you said, but please really keep it to 1 minute. We'll start with Jess.
You start with me?
Yep.
Okay.
1 minute.
So in closing, I'm grateful to be up here. I'm grateful for what I've learned in this past research.
Not your closing argument.
It's not my closing
No,
argument, it's just a
anything that
rebuttal.
you'd like to discuss that we've discussed so far, or a topic we have not discussed. Then we'll get to closing arguments.
Yeah, I think that it's important to know that families live on this island. There's a lot of people with children, and I think that there are a lot of younger people that are coming to this island. I think that there's a nice community that is to be had, that we can work with all generations that work together. And I think it's very important that we be mindful of that with the school, we be mindful of that with the community center, we be mindful of that with the crosswalks, with the bike lanes, and all of these things, because I think that oftentimes the individuals who are here don't realize that there's a whole community of young people here, and that's important.
Terry, 1 minute. Free time.
Just freewheeling on any subject. Okay, let's go back to the Q Rail Drive. Steve brought up a point, and one of the advantages that there has been a great in season. There has been a tremendous amount of congestion for the some 600 homes back in that region. Is the intersection of Palm, it's Marina there. Had we been able to, and if we're able to acquire the church property, I've had discussions with our engineer with regard to redesigning that entire, I'm going to go over I understand, but let me finish the point.
Go ahead, finish your point. Succinctly.
The point is that if we're able to acquire that, we can reconfigure that entire intersection of Marina, Palm, and Marina Drive. The way it exists right away will not permit a roundabout at that site without eminent domain, and I would never be, under those circumstances, favor an eminent domain approach to acquiring somebody's personal property.
Thanks, Carol. Anything you want to touch on we didn't touch on, or you want to revisit?
Affordable housing, because I do know the businesses have a heck of a time getting people to come out and work for them. We can't have, there's no way you're going to have affordable housing on this island. Nobody's going to give you property. If they do, they're going to want $9 million for it. We have the affordable housing language in the comp plan because it's required by law. But even the lawyers that are helping us do this know that's just to put it in there because you need to have it in there. It's not workable. The Gloria Dei Church, what I'd like to do is express that if you want something, you got to work for it. We offered them $3 million. You have to write letters. You have to call the contact of the church and express to them, how much does this mean to my island? What we could do for it. Sometimes it's not just money. You have to just get the fact over that we'll honor that building that they like so much. We'll fix it. We'll keep it. So I need some people to call me because I've been writing letters. I'll give you the address.
Thanks, Carol. Steve, 1 minute of free time.
Yeah, following back up on stormwater, because that I did spend quite a bit of time on that, and that was a passion of mine. I really feel like no homeowner should have water from storms threatening their houses and their properties. And I've spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people and looking at a lot of different areas, and excited that we're going to be voting to spend the $1.7 million, mostly from grant money, on 56th and 57th Street and Gulf Drive for that needed improvement. And that's the first of many. One thing I kept saying is, how people don't know what's going on. We need to. I went to the website. There's like no website on stormwater. We're still talking about spending the most amount of money, tons of money. Why can't we have something better on the website? We've got great productions for getting out the message for clean water. We need that for stormwater. So there is a website up now, and it looks good so far. It's not, as Sajay said, it's not fully done, but it really is starting to help and show where things are. And I talked to him today even and said, look, can you see if you can do a frequently asked questions on it? Why are we spending this much money? Is this the right person we're working with? Have we talked to the other cities? Take these tough questions and try to answer them in these facts, and then have it out there for people. So.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank all four of you so much for doing this tonight. It really helps the public get an understanding on the people they're voting for their city. I do really appreciate you folks doing it. It's time for your 1-minute closing statement. Terry, you can go first.
Okay, well, thank you and the paper, Joe, for conducting this. It is an opportunity for the public. Gave me an opportunity to meet Jessica for the first time. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that our city is blessed with people who do step up. We don't have an ad hoc committee that we don't fill and have multiple applicants for. To be honest with you, the incumbents would love to have gone through this campaign and be elected by acclamation, but this is good. In reality, altruistically, it's good to have people to step up and say, I want to be a part of the community. So I really thank you, Jessica, to do so, because I think it indicates we have a very vibrant, interested community and people who want to do their part to try to make it better. I'm willing to do that. I think I've been a contributor. I realize everybody doesn't agree with every decision I make, but that's our system. And I sleep well at night. There isn't a decision I've made that I regret and believe was wrong. So I look forward to serving the city for another 2 years. I thank you for your support. And I think a number of us have information out on the counter if you choose to take it with you tonight that elaborates on many of the issues Joe wasn't able to ask tonight.
Thank you. And we'll do some more interviews before the election. We just want to get this one out before we all voting. Carol, closing argument.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and listening to us. Going forward, I want to aggressively join with the Clean Water Committee and those that are working on things like the water keepers and such. I'm very tired of hearing of the spills going into the rivers and coming out to us. And then, oops, I don't like the oops. So I want to put some more teeth in some laws. I also am going after that Gloria Dye property. Anybody wants to talk to me about it and helping, come along. Home rule is being eaten away. You've just been reading about how they can't put the wetlands under safety because of the rules that have been taken away from us by the government. We must change the face in Tallahassee. We pay enormous amount of money for a lobbyist to go up there and fight and protect our city. We must change the face in Tallahassee to understand cities are individuals. One law does not fit all. And I like my job, and I want to continue to be your commissioner. Thank you.
Steve?
I think the biggest thing is, those, you can talk to anybody that knows me and that I'm a listener and that I care. And that's the most important thing I think in life. And that's how I work in my business. Because I need to listen to the residents in my facility and my staff, and they need to know that I care. And I think that's what I want to bring more to the city, because I think that's going to bear good results for the city as well. To have a city that listens and cares to every stakeholder that's involved with the city and making it great, because that's what makes our city great. And I got to talk with Sajay, find out if I was the one to talk to him first or if Terry talked to him first, because it was funny. I had the same conversation with Sajay, because he's a traffic engineer as well too, and said, hey, can we put a roundabout? If we get the key right, if we get the Gloria Day property, can we put a roundabout there maybe? And, well, it's going to cost a lot, but we can do anything with enough money. So I didn't quite, I guess that was a yes, but anyway, I know that'll help Key Royale, and I want to do things that are going to help the residents here. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thank you. Jessica?
Yeah, so thanks everybody for being here, and thank you for all of you for being here as well. I appreciate it. The reason I'm here is because I like to help people and I like to make a difference. It's what's ingested in my DNA. It's just who I am. And I know from running a business that sometimes you need fresh eyes. I'm a journalist. I went to school to be a journalist, and the best part about being a journalist sometimes is you have something and you give it to somebody else because you can't see where the errors are. And I think that sometimes when you're in a role for a very long time, if you don't look and hand it to somebody else to say, where can we do better? What can we see differently? And how can we navigate this in a new and different way? You have a clouded view of what you might think is right. And you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing what you think is right. But sometimes you need to be able to look and see and visualize new ways forward and new paths forward and new ideas that are out there. So that is why I'm here. I am grateful to everyone who is up here with me. But yeah, sometimes I feel like you just need something new.
Thank you, everybody. How about a hand for our candidates? And thank you, audience members, so much. Thanks again, Chief, Mayor, Stacy. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. We hope you learned something about the candidates. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Jeff.
Nice job, Joe.